Okay, so I'm picking up where I left off with the first part of the note sequencer. We have 8 steps. Um, that's just a compromise, so I have enough to show you, but a real sequencer might have 16, might have 24, 32, can have any number if you how many of these you want to create. I just want to work with 8 right now. And to make this work, I need to count through the steps, and I need to select the right count to play for the right step. And if you listen to those two terms, I need to count and I need to select. That's going to point to the objects I need. So what I need, going to move my metro over here. It's a decent enough place. And pull these down just a little bit for now. So I got my metro. I need to count bangs. So metro is sending out a bang at whatever rate I tell it. And I'm going to count those with the counter object. And so I'm going to count from 1 to 8. That's the number of steps I have. I don't want to count 0 to 7, just because I'll get into that. But then if I want to think about how many steps, I want the number of steps to be the maximum. So I've got 8 steps. Count from 1 to 8. And that's going to come out, and I can see where I'm at. I'm also going to put an integer box here into the rightmost inlet. This is my max number of steps, or I should say it's my number of steps in the pattern if I want to change. So 8 is my max, and it's what I default to when I open the patch. But if I want to shorten it, I can change it with that number here, and that'll be the max. So I'll show you how that'll work. But now I want to select what count to play. So select object. We've been using it to look for special keys like spacebar, R key, but you can have it look for more than one thing at a time. You just type in how many arguments you want. So I want to type in the steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's what I'll have, and these will be now my outputs. If I roll over the outlets, first one, it bangs if my input matches 1. Bangs if my input matches 2, 3, so on. So, and I'm going to put the bangs because it's also kind of useful to see the bangs progress through a step sequencer to know where you're at. So I'm going to put the bangs down here above each note, or just to the right, just to the left of each note. I'm having directional issues. And let's move it so it's right over. Okay, and I'll keep the same size by doing an option drag. Option drag. Option drag. Should be able to copy the 4 now and make them all line up and hook them up. Exciting world of patching cables, and I made a mistake. And now I can connect to actually lock the patch, there we go. I can connect 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Remember, there's always one more outlet than argument because if the input doesn't match, it passes through. But if it does match, it sends out a bang. And I can stretch this out so it kind of, the patch cords are straight. I'm not really got a good aesthetic match here, but I've got something. So now, if I lock the patch, hit the transport, and that's actually a patch off screen that's playing that note. Come back here, you see at least it's stepping through. You see all the banks go through? Cool. Stop. Leave it at that. So now I've got my sequencer, can play notes. I need to come up with a pattern. So let's decide. I want to play all 8. I can turn them on. Pick out a pattern. Let's do it while it runs. It's going to play low notes. So there's my C, where I can hold down the shift key if I want to fine tune. It's something. It's not the world's best. I can stop. So last part. I've got my patch, made an interesting pattern. Now I want to be able to save this and recall it as part of the patch and maybe have more than one sequence. So I can do that with a preset object. Preset object is a bank of memory locations for user interface elements. Our user interface elements are number boxes, toggles, dials, anything that's changeable in the patch. I can store them. Now I can do this different ways. I'm going to, it'll expand out. So how many do we want? Doesn't really matter. I want to put them over here. And I can do a couple things. If I don't connect to anything, all the interface elements, user interface elements will be saved in a preset. I can decide what things I want to connect. Max will say that I can use send and receive objects, but that doesn't work because I tried it out. I made a movie this afternoon and it didn't work. So if you want to be explicit about what to include, you connect it to the first outlet. If you want to be explicit about what to exclude, you can, if you only have like 2 objects you don't want to include, you can do that here. I want to be explicit, so I want to include the toggles, and I want to include the dials and the number of steps, right? Which I didn't mention, but go back. Go back to 8. Okay, so let's say I've got everything. Let's unlock. So I want the number of steps. I want each toggle and each dial. Okay. Now I'm going to be connecting a lot of things to this one outlet, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and when I click and attach it to an object, it will bring up another patch cord from the same outlet. So this speeds things up a lot. Now I got the stuck one, so Command click. All right, and if I lock the patch and hold down the Shift key over the first box, I have now stored those user interface elements. So if I change the number of steps, go back and click on 1, you'll see it jumps back to 8. And all the notes would go too. So and you can see because I selected it, that's the current memory. So let's change something. Let's just change the number of steps and change, well, it doesn't matter whether these 4 are on or not, but let's change this pattern to holding down the Shift key to get some fine tuning, F, G sharp or A flat, and C3. Patch doesn't have to be running, but I will shift click on 2. So now I have 2 things stored. I can select number 1. And I can switch between patterns. The blue one's highlighted, that's the one I selected. And I can do this. The preset object can be resized to have as many locations or as few locations as you want. And you can have different colors. Now the final thing, I've kind of gone long with this video, but I can clean up my spaghetti mess or my spider web by holding down the Option key, dragging across these patch cords when I'm unlocked. It'll select patch cords. If you're not holding down the Option key, they don't get selected. And I can use the Shift Command Y to align them. Max is thinking about it, and I really hope it doesn't crash. Good. And what it did is it created segmented patch cords to not intersect any of the other objects. So at least looks a little cleaner. You can see the dials, toggles, the max count, the select, lines aren't running through it. So this is pretty nice. I'm going to save it as part 2. And that is it. Happy maxing.